The anime begins with a male student named Alto Goldfield, a first-year student at the Ortigia Magic Academy, in the teacher's room. They discuss summoning and contracting with one of the familiars if Alto wanted to advance in the class. So far, he has always failed to summon familiars, so he always gets reprimands from the teacher. Alto was not discouraged. He tried to find something in the library that might help him. Suddenly, an old book fell on his head. He opened the book, which turned out to be an old magic book. He tried to perform a magic summoning based on the guide in the book and immediately drew a symbol on the library floor. After chanting the spell, a naked demonic woman named Vermeil appeared. Alto invites her to make a contract and asks her to become his familiar. Vermeil teases and kisses him to absorb mana from his body as a sign of binding a contract with him. After finishing, he ordered her to wear clothes belonging to his older sister to cover her body. Alto knows that the devil is an evil entity that can destroy a country, but right now, there is no other way for him to advance to class. He asked why Vermeil didn't refuse the contract when other familiars had always rejected him all this time. She replied that it was done as a thank you to him, who had freed herself after being sealed long in the magic book. She explained why Alto always failed to summon familiars, because his real magic power was too strong, so no familiar dared to contract with him. The next day, Alto brings Vermeil to the academy to introduce her as his familiar so that he can advance in his class. The teacher was a little suspicious because no one had ever been bound by a contract or had a human familiar. It turned out that Vermeil hid her horns and tails before entering the academy so they wouldn't get into trouble. She showed the contract to the teacher on her chest, and they got approval so Alto could still attend class. As the lesson progressed, Vermeil continued to cling to Alto. The teacher tried to rebuke her, but she managed to silence the teacher by saying that the familiar must cling to his master. On the other hand, a female student named Lilia, Alto's childhood friend, was furious to see Alto making out with Vermeil. After school, Lilia challenges Alto to a duel in which the loser must comply with the winner's request. If she wins, Lilia asks him to confine Vermeil when she is not needed, and Vermeil accepts the challenge. Lilia immediately took out her familiar Sylphid, high-level wind spirit, then started attacking them. However, after attacking Vermeil, Lilia was surprised to see her standing firmly and not shifting a bit after receiving an attack from her familiar. The situation turned around. Vermeil tried to attack Lilia without using any force. She just touched Lilia's body. After that, the male students there looked at Lilia's body while Alto covered his face because he was embarrassed by what had just happened. As the winner, he has the right to ask Lilia to do anything. Arriving at home, Alto, who was resting, was told by Vermeil that Lilia liked him. But he didn't believe it because Lilia was his childhood friend, so their closeness was natural and not because of love. Vermeil asks for a reward to win the fight, namely a kiss so that she can get his mana. She explained that his strength had a tremendous impact on her body, even as she lost her strength because she had been sealed for so long. Apart from kissing, Vermeil tells him there is another way to transfer his mana to her, namely by making love, but Alto refuses. The next day, Vermeil goes with Alto to the academy. Her seductive appearance attracted the male students and made them unable to take their eyes off her. Suddenly, a dragon that went out of control entered the academy. She then stopped the dragon with just a snap of her finger and could throw it into the sky. After that incident, Alto and Vermeil became the subject of the school's conversation. While talking with Lilia, two male seniors, one of whom was named Rex, the owner of the dragon familiar, came to take revenge on them. Shortly afterward, Rex takes out his familiar Tyrannosuke to attack Vermeil, then Alto freezes them using his crystal magic. Seeing that, she praised Alto's crystal magic, which was considered very good. Suddenly, Tyrannosuke managed to get out of the freeze and was about to attack Vermeil. Seeing this, she did not remain silent. She strengthened Alto's strength and returned the enemy's attack. As a result, Rex admits defeat and apologizes to them. Arriving home, Vermeil asked what goals Alto wanted to achieve that made him so determined to study at the academy. He tells his dream of becoming a witch with a platinum rank. Hearing that, she was happy and asked for his mana transfer again. In the morning, Alto felt exhausted because Vermeil sucked a lot of mana from his body. After that, he met Lilia with a male student named Marcus and a female student named Cheryl. Not long after, the teacher passing by called Alto, Lilia, and Cheryl to his room. He wants the three of them to participate in a fairy flower picking competition in the forest. Whoever among them will be appointed as the class representative. After school, they went to the forest, but Marcus, who was not chosen, insisted that he wanted to come with them. Arriving in the forest, Marcus took out his familiar Francois as a horned beetle, but Marcus and his familiar were instead devoured by the pitcher's bag. As a subordinate, Cheryl had to help him, then she left the match to Alto and Lilia. When Alto and Lilia managed to find the whereabouts of the fairy flower, it turns out that the flower is being guarded by a three-headed dog demon. She took advantage of her invisibility potion after knowing the condition of the demon, who had a cold. Alto was surprised and praised Lilia for being able to make such a complex potion, even though the potion was made by her so she could sneak into his room at night. After drinking the potion, it turned out that only her body was transparent, while her clothes could still be seen, so Lilia took off all her clothes. Vermeil didn't want to stay silent either and reminded Alto that they should do something immediately to get the fairy flower. Alto asks Vermeil to do magic return like when she fought Rex. Vermeil agrees. She then pushes Alto and takes off his clothes, and transfers mana so that she can cast magic that will be used against the demon. On the other hand, Lilia miscalculated. It turned out that the demon only had a cold in 2 of its heads, while the other head could still smell and thwarted Lilia's efforts. When Lilia was cornered, Vermeil used her magic to defeat the demon. Then, Lilia was asked to take the fairy flower to the cliff's edge. After picking it, Lilia immediately gave the flower to Alto. But without realizing it, the effect of her invisibility potion disappeared so that her body could be seen by Alto. Suddenly, there is a wind that blows the fairy flower toward Cheryl. Without knowing anything, she immediately took the flower for granted. That made her the class representative, with the approval of Alto and Lilia. The next day, Vermeil was invited by Alto to buy a delicious sweet dessert. Meanwhile, Alto thought that he, as the contract holder, did not know her background. Just as he was about to ask Vermeil about it, a group of dragon riders suddenly flew through the air. All the students were impressed and amazed by the figure of the leader of the dragon rider, who was a member of the female student council named Chris. During gym time, Alto, Vermeil, Lilia, Marcus, and Cheryl talked about the famous student council members. It made Alto excited, especially when they talked about the platinum rank. Vermeil drew closer to Alto, but their closeness made Lilia jealous and angry with her. While changing clothes, Lilia told Cheryl her suspicions about Vermeil, who was not human. But after hearing that, Cheryl instead asked her to express her feelings to Alto because of everything she thought happened. After all, she was jealous of Alto. On the other hand, Vermeil caused a stir by following Alto into the men's locker room. Even when he was bathing at home, she sometimes took a bath with him without wearing any clothes. At that time, Vermeil kept trying to seduce Alto, who looked embarrassed as their bodies touched each other. On the other hand, Chris, the leader of the dragon riders, often abuses Rex, even insulting his familiar, who can't fly. She gave Rex a chance to return to the dragon rider group as long as he was willing to be the errand boy and lick the bloodstains on her shoes. But Rex refused and remembered what Alto had said before. After the incident, Rex was hospitalized. When he knew the news, Alto, Vermeil, and Lilia came to the hospital to visit Rex. Alto feels guilty when he discovers that Rex was hurt by something to do with him. Then Rex asks Alto's response about Tiranosuke, and Alto replies that there is nothing wrong with his familiar. After visiting Rex, Alto tries to challenge Chris to a duel. She wanted to analyze Alto's abilities and was curious about the golden mana emitted by Alto and Vermeil. They were determined to fight Chris in earnest by increasing his abilities. After that, they transfer mana through a kiss, which is witnessed by all the students in the academy. Shortly afterward, Chris and Alto exchanged their attacks. At the beginning of the fight, Alto's side received a lot of attacks from her, but they were still able to defend. She was impressed by Alto's defensive construction, especially Vermeil's ability, which is known as a familiar human but can block her attacks. Alto focused his crystal attack and managed to destroy half of where Chris was standing, but she could still rise with the help of her flying dragon while boasting of being the ruler of the sky. Chris looked down on all the humans under her, but Alto said that all familiars had their own specialties. Their fight seemed to be getting fiercer. Vermeil and Alto launched their strongest attack, as well as Chris, who attacked them both continuously from the air. When she felt she had attacked them heavily, Chris couldn't see their presence in front of her. Unknowingly, they were in the air and about to make their final attack on her. Alto immediately went down and pointed his magic crystal at Chris, indicating that this duel was won by him. All the students who were watching also cheered for Alto's victory. After that incident, Alto was popular among the girls at the academy. Lilia, who saw it from a distance with Cheryl, felt very jealous. Then came a male professor named Obsidian, who was no less popular among the girls at the academy. The professor approached Alto and praised him. Although he took the duel lightly, Professor Obsidian understood that he was doing that for something he wanted to protect. On the other hand, the defeated Chris accepts her fate to perform the duties of a servant. While sweeping the academy, Rex approached her, then she directly apologized to him. While in the room, Alto, who was sleeping, was suddenly kissed by Vermeil. He woke up and immediately advised her that a kiss should only be done by couples who love each other. Then she whispered that she loved him. It made Alto think even when he was at the academy. Arriving at the academy, Alto meets Professor Obsidian in the library to ask about demons and humans who love each other. The professor answered that there was a history where humans and demons loved each other until the woman gave birth to a demon child. There was also a history of a succubus demon who only tempted male witches to get his magical energy. Hearing that explanation, Alto returned to his thoughts and became gloomy. Arriving at home, Alto just stared while eating with Vermeil. Suddenly he says that the demons only want the power of witches and don't really love him. Hearing that, she kisses him without sucking his mana to prove that she really loves him. The next day, Professor Obsidian called a female student named Emma into his room. He teases her, says he likes Emma, and hugs her. But at the same time, he injected something into her body so she couldn't control her magic power, making the room freeze. Luckily, Emma can still be saved even though she is dying and unconscious. On the other hand, a male student council vice president, Shinoji Ryuga, investigate Emma's case. According to the existing track record, this is not the first incident at the academy, and the perpetrator has not been caught. Meanwhile, Alto was tasked with writing a report regarding his familiar, so he had to write about Vermeil in detail. Turned out that her body sizes must also be clearly stated. She used this opportunity to tease Alto. Without realizing it, Cheryl and Lilia observed her movements toward him. After that, Lilia drank the invisibility potion to infiltrate Alto's room and entered using the spare key. At that time, Alto was trying to take a book, and unconsciously, Lilia, who was transparent, was in front of him. He accidentally touched her body, which made her very happy. Alto invites Vermeil to go shopping, but before leaving, he writes that she likes sweet food in his report. Before following him out, Vermeil added a caption to his report. On the other hand, Chris is being beaten badly by Rex and his familiar, who looks like they are under hypnosis. The scene goes back to when Rex got his first familiar, which was still in the form of a giant egg. Rex continues to take care of him and take him wherever he goes. At that time, Chris was amazed by his prospective familiar. Rex felt happy after receiving praise from one of the dragon riders and student council members. But now he attacks Chris with no mercy, even until she lies down. Meanwhile, Alto and Vermeil were seen shopping together. When he was going to buy vegetables, she asked for a sweet cake and didn't want to leave it in front of the cake shop. Finally, Alto was forced to obey, then Vermeil, who felt happy, kissed and hugged him in front of everyone. It made him very embarrassed. Suddenly, the male students who are often with Rex come in a hurry to meet Alto and tell them about Rex's situation. On the other hand, Rex continued to attack Chris. Her attacks didn't work against him when she wanted to fight him. Not long after, Alto and the others came to help her and resuscitate Rex. Then Rex said that he wanted revenge against Alto and Vermeil. Realizing something was wrong, Vermeil wanted to analyze it. But then a female student council president named Alina appeared, immediately attacking Rex until he was unconscious. After that, they took him to the hospital. The next day, Alina attended a student council meeting that discussed the same case that had happened several times. In the middle of the meeting, Chris left the student council meeting because she was fed up. Meanwhile, Liliana shouted excitedly in front of Alto because the exam was about to start, while Vermeil allowed Alto to go home for a while. Seeing this opportunity, Lilia immediately invited him to study together in a closed room and alone. On the way, Vermeil met Professor Obsidian. She said that she already knew that the recent case was his work. She warns him and threatens him not to touch Alto. However, he instead injects something into her body that makes her unable to control her power. Alto, who was studying with Lilia, noticed something strange because the sign of his contract with Vermeil suddenly shone. The student council members also sensed that something bad would happen. Alina rushed to Professor Obsidian's location, but she was blocked by the folded paper sent by Professor Obsidian. At that time, Vermeil transformed into a demon who almost lost control while Alto struggled to get to where Vermeil was. Alina is still being blocked by Professor Obsidian's paper monster, which keeps on regenerating when its body is attacked by Alina. At the same time, Professor Obsidian shackled Vermeil with his magic. Alto, who saw this, was confused and asked him. Suddenly, he admitted that all the bad things at the academy were his fault, including the recent case that happened to 5 students. Even though his experiment failed, Professor Obsidian was happy because now he could have Vermeil, who was a real demon. Hearing that, Alto was furious and launched his mana, which was also absorbed by Vermeil. Immediately she went berserk and was about to attack Professor Obsidian. However, Alto blocked her so that his body was pierced by her attack. Because her body was still under the influence of the injection, Vermeil instantly recalled her life when it was sealed in the book. At that time, she felt very lonely and alone until suddenly, a door with light appeared and revealed the figure of Alto while holding out his hand to Vermeil with a smile. Remembering that, Vermeil became even more furious. She re-evolved to be bigger and looked very scary. When she was about to kill Professor Obsidian, Alto immediately hugged her and forbade her to kill him. After that, Vermeil was touched and regained consciousness until she returned to her human form. Lilia, who saw this, was devastated because she thought Alto would die from being hit by Vermeil's stab. But Vermeil assures her that Alto will not die because she will heal him again. After losing, Professor Obsidian was furious and chose to inject himself until he turned into a hybrid monster and arrogantly said he would defeat Vermeil. But with just one blow from Vermeil, half of the monster's body was destroyed. Then he tried to escape into the air but was thwarted by Chris and was followed by a hit from Vermeil. Along with the fall of Professor Obsidian, the paper monster blocking Alina also disappeared. Finally, Professor Obsidian was arrested. Meanwhile, the 5 students who were the subject of the experiment had awakened from their coma in the hospital. After the fight was over, Alto tried to calm Lilia down. He also talked privately with Vermeil, who felt guilty for stabbing him. But Alto said he didn't mind it and kept a positive attitude toward her. At that time, Vermeil explained sadly that the sign given to Alto was actually her heart. She tries to connect it to Alto so that she can live with the consequence that she will also die when he dies. Hearing this, Alto was angry with Vermeil because she should have been able to live a long time as a demon. But by giving her heart to Alto, she will have a short life like humans. After Alto saw Vermeil demon form, she was cold to him, and they only talked when it was time to transfer mana. Knowing that, Alto did not remain silent. He demanded an explanation from Vermeil about her change in attitude. She said Alto should be scared because he had seen her real form as a real demon. But he got up and kissed her without absorbing her mana. Alto said that he was not afraid. As his master, he could not be afraid of her, his familiar, then he left. Vermeil realized that the kiss Alto gave just now didn't absorb her mana. She also remembered his words that kissing should only be done by people who love each other. The next day, the female students felt sad because of the loss of Professor Obsidian. At the same time, the male students also grieve without Vermeil's presence. Alto explained that she wanted to be alone for some time. Deep in thought while alone in the park, Vermeil was suddenly approached by Lilia. Lilia expressed her opinion about Vermeil and said she wasn't afraid even though Vermeil was a demon because she didn't do anything bad. Lilia also asked her to trust Alto, who was her master. Arriving at the house, Vermeil tried to talk to Alto. She tries hard to express her feelings of love and wants to always be by his side. Hearing this, he was grateful that Vermeil was willing to be by his side. Then their conversation was closed with a kiss from her. On the other hand, 2 female witches from Platinum Square named Lolite, nicknamed the Heaven Command, and Helioter, nicknamed the Conveyor. That night, the 2 massacred church residents while discussing Professor Obsidian's failure and intended to continue his research. The next day, Vermeil wanted to go back to the academy with Alto. But this time, she tried to use a female student uniform. However, she didn't button the uniform because it was too small. With Vermeil's return to the academy, the male students cheered joyfully. Not long after, Alto was excited to study in class because Branzo's exam was getting closer, but the committee and student council came to arrest Alto and Vermeil. Suddenly, Alina opened the conversation by apologizing to them, where the student council could not control the conditions during the incident involving Professor Obsidian. She informs that Professor Obsidian has escaped Ortigia custody and asks about what happened yesterday. Alto promised to tell the truth, but they restrained Alto and Vermeil using their weapons and magic. Afterward, Alina asked about what he was hiding. The magic that restrained Vermeil could still overcome it, but Alto, held hostage by the student council members using swords, couldn't survive if they acted rashly. At first, Alto was going to lie and cover up Vermeil's identity but was prevented by her. Then he reveals her true identity as a demon and their lives between masters and interlocking familiars. Alto tries hard to defend Vermeil even she is willing to leave the academy and is ready to accept any punishment. The student council committee was surprised that even one of the female student council members named Jessica was about to kill Vermeil for the sake of the future security of humans but was prevented by Alina. Because according to Alina, Vermeil is not a bad demon, and she also has no intention of expelling Alto from the academy. Alina also has no intention of giving that fact to a teacher who cannot be trusted. Alina makes a surprising decision by inviting Alto to join the Ortigia Academy Student Council Committee. Hearing this, he accepted her offer. Arriving at the house, Alto and Vermeil talked again. He said that he was suspicious of Alina, and Vermeil said the same thing. Because there is a possibility that Alina is not human and is a figure to watch out for. Alto accepted the offer only to become stronger to protect Vermeil. Hearing the news of Alto joining the student council made Lilia and Cheryl proud because only he from the 2nd grade students served as a student council member. Besides that, he could also beat Chris. After that, Alto headed to the student council room. When he opened the student council door, he saw that Jessica, Chris, and Alina were only wearing their underwear because they were changing. This earned him the first reprimand, especially from Jessica, who immediately pointed a sword at him. The student council meeting this time was held to discuss the magic elements that confronted Alina when the Professor Obsidian incident was happening. As Chris analyzed the paper, she saw something she had never seen before where the magic contained within it was extremely diverse, until the researchers at the Ortigia Academy themselves were unable to decipher it. This made Alina conclude that the enemy they were going to fight was a person with platinum square status. On the other hand, Lawlight and Helioder meet a woman named Kohaku Miya, the paper monster magic owner, who confronts Alina. Kohaku Miya was angry because she had to wait for Lawlight and Helioder, who were not on time. But she was surprised they came late because the church leader, Platinum Square, held them back, so they both had to fight. Next, they would target Alto and Vermeil. At night, Alto dreams of meeting a woman crying alone in the middle of a ruined city. Before he can ask about the woman's identity, Alto meets a woman who asks him to choose between helping humanity for the sake of the world's salvation or being on a path of ugliness and destruction for his sake. While he was still thinking about the choice, suddenly Alto woke up from his sleep and looked at Vermeil, who was sleeping. He couldn't go back to sleep, so he studied for the Branzo exam. Shortly afterward, Vermeil wakes up, sees Alto studying, and teases him for the mana transfer. The next morning Alto was surprised to find the old magic book in the library, then he took the book home. Soon afterward, Alto went to his friends to walk together to the Branzo exam venue attended by all the magic students and not just from the Ortigia Academy. But the biggest winning percentage will be achieved by Ortigia Academy with a total of 50%, while from other schools, the winning percentage will only reach 10%. Alto felt increasingly burdened, whereas a student council member, he was under pressure to win, especially from Chris, who he had defeated. Before the exam started, a man who was the exam supervisor explained their exam scheme, which had to measure their mana using a crystal ball that contained fire. Many of the examinees were dismissive, but Alto thought otherwise. The test began, and many examinees underestimated the test, but in fact, no one had succeeded in channeling mana into the crystal ball. After that, it was Lilia's turn. She and her familiar managed to channel mana into the fire in the center of the crystal. Cheryl was also one of the participants from Ortigia Academy who succeeded in channeling her mana to make the fire in the crystal flare up, a sign of the amount of mana she distributed. Afterward, one male student from another school managed to ignite the fire in the crystal ball to a large extent. When it was Mark's turn, although there was only a small amount of fire in the crystal, he had already entered the criteria for passing the exam. Now it's Alto's turn. At first, the selection supervisor almost denied Vermeil's existence, but after it was explained through the participant data that Vermeil was his human familiar, they allowed it. Alto examined the crystal ball that had caught his attention from the start. He even checked the magic contained in it. It turned out that the crystal was made as a mana storage, and to channel it had to go through the right path to make it easier. After examining the crystal, Alto found that the easiest way to enter was through the back of the crystal. He asked the supervisor if it was okay to channel mana through the back of the crystal. The supervisor said yes, while he had passed Alto because he knew the position. Vermeil teased him about showing his strength while standing in front of the most difficult position while infusing his mana. Turned out that the fire blazing inside was not the same as before but emitted a silver light. Alto realized that channeling mana into the crystal was not as difficult as transferring mana to Vermeil. The incident surprised everyone, but she teased him into doing more and even caused the crystal to shatter. The supervisors were stunned when they saw the crystal shattered. Meanwhile, Alto was scared and apologized for breaking the crystal ball. Then Alto asked if he had failed because he had destroyed the crystal. However, the supervisor said directly that he was very worthy of passing. On the sidelines of the written exam, Alto and his friends had a picnic and encouraged each other. Vermeil pulled him down the hall to channel mana by kissing him, even making him late for the written exam. After that, Alto runs into a magical male student from another school who also passed the exam. The student goes to the toilet and encounters Lawlight, who sneaks in. Soon after, she kills him and steals the student's identity to take the exam. In the student council room, Jessica was practicing swordsmanship with Alina. After practice, they took a bath together and talked simultaneously. Jessica still can't believe Alto, who has a familiar demon. Since she was little, she has thought that the devil is an evil creature. But now the reality is that the demon is willing to give her heart to Alto. Alina explained it happened as a form of love from the devil to humans. In the written exam, familiars are prohibited from entering the exam room. Vermeil was waiting for Alto at the door. When he entered the room and chose a seat, Alto realized that the student sitting next to him had not yet arrived. Not long after, the exam supervisor shouted angrily at the late participant and told him to sit next to Alto, who turned out to be Lawlight. Meanwhile, Vermeil sits alone on a park bench while waiting for Alto to finish his exam. She then remembers Alto's serious personality with his dreams and hard work. She also remembered Alto's words that he would always protect her. Inside the exam room, Alto analyzed all the exam questions and didn't find any difficulties. But when he turned to the side, he saw the examinee sleeping soundly. He looked back at his exam questions and answered them carefully. By the time the exam was almost over, the participant next to him seemed to have woken up from sleep. He regretted that the examinee next to him could not finish the exam, but he was surprised to see that the participant easily answered the exam questions. Even she still had time to correct Alto's answer, which was too detailed, to get a warning from the exam supervisor. The participant ignored it and said that the exam would be cancelled. And sure enough, an exam supervisor found the body of one of the participants who had died in the toilet. After observing for a while, the participant next to Alto became a suspect and revealed his true identity as Lilia. She was happy because she could feel the atmosphere of the exam again. Then she took out her strength and messed up the side of the exam room. Seeing that, the examiner immediately attacked Lilia, but her attack destroyed his arm. When he was about to be finished, another examiner saved him. After that, Vermeil arrives. She and Alto try to attack Lilia while the rest of the examinees are evacuated to a safer place. Soon afterward, Lilia broke through the crowd to invite Alto to evacuate together, but they were not allowed to enter the exam room. Then came the kingdom of Ortigia's knights, who entered the scene, followed by Lilia, Marcus, and Cheryl. Unfortunately, the building had been given a magic spell, so they would run outside even if they ran in. Inside, you can see Vermeil, Alto, and the examiners attacking Lilia. When Vermeil is hit and falls down, Alto is furious and releases a gold and silver mana. Unfortunately, he still can't beat Lilia. He even gets an attack on his shoulder from her. Alto asks what the purpose of doing this is, and Lilia replies that her goal is to destroy the world using the power of demons like Vermeil. Seeing him injured, Vermeil changed her form into a demon, but Lilia was still able to withstand her attacks and shackled her. When Lilia is about to go with Vermeil, Alto still holds her leg and asks her to let Vermeil go. But it instead made Lilia feel angry, and she wanted to attack Alto with her strength. After that, something came from the magic book where Vermeil was sealed. Then the Pērverted witch, who had sealed Vermeil, appeared. Alto initially wanted to beat up the witch for sealing her, but suddenly he remembered that Vermeil was sealed because she did many evil things. The Pērverted witch then spawned a key that could release Vermeil, because, at that time, she was being sealed in his magic. Seeing that Lilia said but too late, Alto and the witch went through the door he had unlocked before her attack hit them. Lilia lost Alto and the Pērverted witch, while Alto arrived in Vermeil's memory, where time stopped in the city of Ortigia 550 years ago. The place was still called a continent island. Not long after, Alto saw Vermeil as a child who was playing happily. The Pērverted witch accompanies him while explaining how she lived at that time. Vermeil lives in a convent with other orphans named Miel, Lynn, and Kate, who is cared for by nuns. They live together and love each other as a family, even without blood ties. Vermeil's identity as a demon has also been known, although initially only known by the nun, but the nun still loves her sincerely. She continues to educate Vermeil well, and although little Vermeil knows that she is considered an enemy of God, the nun assures her that God does not hate kind children. One day, little Vermeil was playing and was disturbed by two boys until his horn cover fell off. The two children then threw stones at her until Miel came and protected her. It was also the first time Miel knew that Vermeil was a demon. Even though Miel is one of the people who is familiar with her and knows that the devil is an enemy of God, she will still protect Vermeil because she has been considered a family. That incident was the beginning of Vermeil's suffering story. After the residents learned that Vermeil was a demon, they stormed the monastery and considered her a disease carrier for the locals. The residents blamed her and thought she had cursed the place and had killed the residents' families. The remaining residents formed a crowd that surrounded the church in anger. Knowing this, Vermeil feels guilty, but she is strengthened by her family. Until one day, the residents kept pushing and almost forcibly broke down the church door. To prevent this, the nun came out to calm the citizens and defend Vermeil. The situation became more chaotic. Miel, as the eldest child, then took action and asked her to run away as far as possible alone. Before leaving, she hugged Vermeil one last time very tightly. Miel was crying because she couldn't accompany Vermeil to go because she had to take care of the other younger siblings in the monastery. Soon afterward, Vermeil decided to leave for the safety of all of them. But on the way, she heard the voices of the residents who continued to search for her whereabouts because she was considered to have threatened the safety of all residents. Little Vermeil, scared, decided to return and surrender herself to the residents so that her family was released. But unfortunately, her family hung up and died because the residents, who felt very upset, decided to kill them all. Not long after, the people who were still angry gathered and wanted to kill Vermeil viciously, but her anger at the residents' actions made her very angry. Finally, Vermeil turned into a demon form and scorched the place and all its inhabitants. From that time until 200 years later, Vermeil was known as the greatest calamity and disaster until finally, she was sealed into a book. After seeing her dark past, it made Alto confused. However, he became more determined and understood her feelings. The Pērverted witch said that this incident made Vermeil want to seal herself into the old magic book. Afterward, Alto approached the little Vermeil, contemplating in the middle of the city that she had just scorched the earth. He hugged and comforted her, saying he would be by her side even if it was against the rules. Shortly after, the form of the little Vermeil changed into the form of an adult Vermeil who was sobbing. She was deeply disappointed by her past evil deeds, which she could neither change nor undo. Even so, Alto ignored it, then kissed her. His sincerity towards Vermeil brought them to the real world. Upon returning, Alto expresses his feelings that he loves her. Seeing that incident, Lilia even felt amazed that they could break the magic lock, which made them enter Vermeil's past. It made Lilia feel interested and want to start a fight with the two of them. Suddenly, Lilia took out her familiar, shaped like an army of horses. She feels that Vermeil has special powers and a very strong destructive power because it can destroy anything. It makes her want to use Vermeil to destroy the world. Seeing that, Alto immediately protects Vermeil and will not let Lilia get her. After that, Vermeil and Alto prepare to gather their strength and block Lilia's attack using crystal magic. It destroys her familiar, and then she releases its true power. But unexpectedly, Heliotor came and invited her to go home. Alto asked for their real goal, but they wanted to fight again later and left without an answer. Then the Pearl Witch came and was amazed that the two of them had survived so far, and she entrusted Vermeil to Alto and asked him to take care of her because she was his precious friend. After that, the Pearl Witch left without feeling worried anymore. Shortly afterward, Alto and Vermeil finally returned to the academy, with a little shaking around their territory and making the buildings around them normal again. Here Alto finds the book that once sealed Vermeil and gives it to her. It made Vermeil remember her past. Lilia, who was worried, immediately went to Alto and hugged him, as did the other friends. After that, Alto and Jessica practiced their swords in the student council room. Sadly, he was easily defeated by Jessica, then training continued with Chris, making him immediately fall with one kick. However, Alto didn't want to give up and went back to training, but Chris managed to beat him again. After all of this, Alto felt happy because he was seriously trained by his two seniors, so he became stronger. That night, Vermeil and Alto slept together. She thanks him because he has expressed his love for her and wants to accept her as she is. In the morning, they went to the student council room and discussed yesterday's incident, which had claimed many victims. This made Alina unable to remain silent. Alina asked about Alto's real purpose. He replies that he will protect Vermeil because he is her master. On the other hand, Lilia was happy that she had successfully passed the Branzo exam, as were Marcus, Cheryl, and Alto. But here, Lilia is looking for Alto, still nowhere to be seen. She feels annoyed because Alto is always with Vermeil. On the other hand, Vermeil, alone with Alto, asked him to kiss, but this time they did it happily. This is the end of the anime. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that sometimes people who feel they are pure and good are even crueler than the devil, while people judged to be evil are the ones who often do good.